Good afternoon, welcome to Market Wrap number 190. This week, UK population exploding. It's the top 70 million in 12 years, a 20% increase since 1970. Further on from that, it's expected to increase by the size of Sweden by 2050. So all of Sweden, all up population into the UK, 10 million people. The Office of National Statistics said the population was expected to increase by 4.4 million in the next decade, before reaching 70 million in 2027. That's an increase roughly in the next decade of the whole of the Irish Republic moving into the UK. Amazing. The population is projected to grow by 10 million over the next 25 years to 75 million, up from the 64.6 million we have today. The statistics predict an ageing population with some 29.5% of people aged over 60 by 2039, up from 23% at the moment. By then, more than 1 in 12 UK people are expected to be aged 80 or over. Basically, this is just assuming that more people come to the UK than leave. It's a simple thing. And it looks that way. There are a lot of people emigrating, leaving the country, but far more coming in. For the first time for quite some time, we've got more births now than deaths in the UK. So it's a vital growing population with a lot of immigrants coming in who are potentially hard workers. The latest figures in the short term have also been revised upwards. The population estimate for 2024 is now 249,000 more people than previously projected last year. Professor Christian Dussman, who's the Director of Centre for Research and Analysis of Migration at University College London, said it's a very similar pattern to past figures. Basically going through a boom period. Same sort of thing happened in Italy, same in Germany. They have massive economic growth on the back of it. It's a very positive period, the research is saying. But what needs to be done is to make sure the people who come in, they say, pay many of the taxes as they should, because they're going to put a lot of pressure on public services. So pay tax, we increase public services. So really what they need to be looking at, according to Professor Dussman, is what are they doing now to ramp up public sector together with GDP growth. So we're getting increased GDP growth because of immigration, what we're doing with the public sector. And it should be looking at future demands now. This is what governments should be doing. They're looking at what is going on. Have they got the plan to expand public services and other areas such as hospitals, housing? Now, what does it mean? This is the whole point of today's talk. What does it mean for the housing market and rental increases with all this humongous amount of people coming to the country? I thought we'd look at new home building since 1970. Back then, the population was 55 million and 250,000 new homes were built, which is actually more than 2023. These homes were 30% affordable. At the same time, 40,000 homes were bulldozed because they were derelict. So it actually gave us a net 210, which equates to 0.4% of the population. Since then, population has grown from 57 million in 1990, when 150,000 new houses were built, 62.3 million in 2010, 240,000 new houses were built, 67 million in 2020, when 235 houses were built, and in 2023 it went back down to 218,000, less than 1970. Based on the 1970s 0.4% calculator, in 2023 there should have been 268,000 properties built, so there's a deficit of 50,000 homes. This shortfall has existed actually for the last 20 years, meaning the UK is close to 1 million homes short. We also have to look at the type of housing being built. In the 70s and 80s, 30% of housing stock was social housing, but that today is down to 8%. So it's 8% is affordable. Even hitting the current annual target wouldn't necessarily address the current housing shortages if they're the wrong sort of properties being built, according to Charity Shelter. There is no point in building 300,000 homes a year if the vast majority are overpriced flats and houses that people on average or lower income can't afford. The government must make sure any target it sets will deliver the genuinely affordable social homes this country needs. So that's the truth. What's the point in building these houses if they're all posh apartment blocks in Manchester and Birmingham or London city centre? We need affordable, what used to be called council houses. That's where Margaret Thatcher went wrong in selling all those off. So who's to blame for the problem we're presently in? Is it the baby boomers? They own 3/4 of the residential stock in the UK. Is it their fault? Over the next decade, as boomer generation slowly ages into its golden years, the UK will have more and more of these households. People like me with no kids living at home in big houses. Given that many risks they face and a relatively few housing choices available to them, clinging onto a house that is too large for their everyday needs is very rational. Besides their pension, a house is far and away the largest store of wealth that many of these people in their 60s and beyond have got. Releasing equity by downsizing to a smaller home in a new location may be attractive in theory, but there are many high transactional and psychological costs in doing so. And besides, with house prices generally growing again, the returns to be had from staying are very tempting. Rather than using economic incentives such as capital gains and stamp duties to lever boomers into smaller houses, Britain should be looking to correct misaligned political and economic incentives that local councils have had use of to block new housing from being built. A healthy housing market with the right policies would channel the huge foreign desire to invest in the UK housing market, and there is a huge one, towards building homes for younger and older households. That money would come in and we'd get more investment from overseas. House prices would be less buoyant. Retirees with too much house would downsize of their own volition, in turn releasing equity for their own consumption and putting a family home back in the market for a new generation to enjoy. Without the will or plan to do this, none of which the main UK political parties has, we see immigration and poor policy driven house price rises and rent increases carrying on for years to come. It's going to carry on with the vicious cycle that it currently is unless the government changes its policy, and they have no incentive to do so apart from winning an election. So is it a good time to buy in the UK? It's one of the best times there is. A long-term purchase. As Warren Buffett says, don't think about it for 5 minutes if you're not thinking about it for 5 years. But it's a great buying opportunity now. Interest rates coming down, markets starting to move. Even looks like London, which is still below its average price from 2015, is going to be a good place to be buying in the next 2 to 3 years. So have a look at it, do your spreadsheets and buy in the UK. Thanks very much. If you want more information, click on the link below. Thanks for watching. If you don't like what I've said, disagree. That's what it's all about. Have a conversation, constructive conversation. Thanks very much. Cheerio.